None of you guys know this, but we had some technical difficulties. But we are here now at the Luck We Had, a Shameless Recap podcast, the mini-sode this time.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hello, and as normal, I'm Amanda. I'm one of your hosts.
I'm Evan. I am your co-host, and today we have our reigning champ of guest stars. Welcome back. It is Lena. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great.
We're killing it. We're staying alive. We did briefly consider only posting Nick Jonas's What a Man Gotta Do instead of doing any kind of episode, because that's all. Literally, when the credits rolled, I picked up my phone and FaceTime Lena and let the song play, and we just stared at each other.
I was like, I hate you.
We stayed on the phone for like another hour because we could not process what we had just seen. So this is the mini-sode recap of season 11, episode 3. I don't even remember what the Francis, Franny,
I think it's like
it's like Francis, Frank, Francine, Franny, or something like that.
I think I had it Googled. I forget what it was, but yeah, it's like definitely like different variations of their names.
Yeah, this episode was absolutely wild. But it's also I don't know if my expectations are just below the floor, but it's definitely better than the first one. I think it's better than the second one. Like, shit just keeps getting better.
Yeah, they're actually like kind of killing it with each episode is just a little bit better than the last one, and I'm just like, they're doing something right for once.
Does it have a direct connection to Maximum Mickey content? I'm thinking, yeah.
Absolutely.
Maybe so.
Absolutely, man. So yeah, let's go storyline by storyline. Did Liam have a storyline in this episode?
He was
Debbie
present.
He was
just
present,
handed
but
Franny
and then
off to Frank.
He got yelled at the end.
Yeah, he was only present for the beginning of the Franny storyline and like the ending.
I'm like working my way through from like youngest to oldest, because poor Liam, just for the second episode in a row, just at least last episode he had a scene.
Yeah,
this episode
true.
He just wasn't there.
Yeah, so basically like Liam this episode, well, everyone's like yelling in the morning, and Debbie's trying to find someone to take Franny. Of course, Liam's like, yeah, sure, I'll take her. But with the headline or the title of this episode, we know Liam doesn't end up taking her to school, but Frank does.
Yeah, poor Liam. Like, the Gallagher rule of like the youngest always takes care of the
other
baby
youngest.
Of the family.
Yeah, that like weird, like that's the least sense making.
Yeah, the whole trope of
oldest.
like Debbie always watching Liam and taking him everywhere. Like my favorite thing is like in season 1 is like taking Liam to show and tell. Like
that was
okay.
literally in the pilot. Yeah,
I know.
He's got a birthmark on his back that looks like Latvia.
That looks like Latvia. But poor Liam. But and then the second youngest that it's supposed to be, but apparently isn't anymore because they changed her age. But Carl's storyline, he's still a cop.
He's still a cop, but you know what they did? Now you have a black female police officer that he's hanging out with. Just to be a little more. I know. I knew. They know exactly what they're doing.
Well, because she's like she's a shitty cop, or just so they can be like, see, black people make shitty cops too. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, guys.
Like, from the moment they introduced her character, I was like, damn, they knew what they were doing. They know what they are doing, and like, she's not even like one of like when people like more than outright female cops like dainty, don't give a shit.
The exact opposite of what his former partner was. So she's corrupt in a different way. She's overly violent.
Yeah.
But the other cop like was too passive. And so it's like, where is this like happy medium that everybody thinks exists but really does not exist?
Yeah, one or the other.
Everything about Carl's storyline can be summed up in Mickey's reaction at the end of the episode when Carl comes home. He just goes, "Fuck you, cop." Like, it's it.
Guess who just made their first arrest? Fuck you, cop.
It was so funny because like 2 episodes ago he was like, "Woohoo, my brother-in-law's a cop, no more parking tickets," and then he like gets pissed off at Ian. He's like, "You know what? Fuck you, cop."
My favorite that scene is so funny. He's like, "Hell yeah, no more parking tickets for me," and Ian's like, "You don't have a car, dumbass." And then Mickey just looks at him.
So yeah, Carl is still a cop, and like, so I put on TikTok that like a short recap. I was like, I don't care about Carl. And someone was like, why don't you care about Carl? And I went, he's a cop, so I don't fucking care. But
we don't care.
They're like, oop, yeah, that's exactly
It
why.
was so funny on Twitter. Shanola got some very rude Twitter replies because she tweeted, "I love Ethan as a cop," like when she was live tweeting, and everybody was like, "Girl, Miss Girl,
Miss
Miss
Girl.
Miss
Girl.
Girl."
And Shanola just loves everybody on that set so much. It's like it's just gonna spill out no matter what she does.
Yeah.
It's probably not even her like go blue. It's her just being like, I love Ethan.
Like,
Look at
look
my
at
little
Ethan
boy. He's a
go. Yeah.
cop. Yeah, like I think that's how I interpret so many of them because I think at this point they all are just vibing with each other. That it's not going to be like cop.
Well, Emma low-key, like on TikTok, was saying that she wants Netflix to pick them up for another season. But
Can you imagine how exhausted Cameron would be if
Oh
He
they
would
my
be
god,
like,
they don't need any more.
he'd be like, only if they pay for my chiropractor from carrying this fucking show on my back. It's like
They should have left it at an even 10. 11's such an odd number
him,
to begin
yeah.
with.
Plus, then it would end with a wedding, which is like so classic. But yeah, I mean, him, Jeremy, Noel,
But
Shanola, they just be
they end
carrying.
with the juiciest story from the entire series and call it quits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know what? Hopefully we're gonna get we're recording this at 7 o'clock on December 26th. By the way, Merry late Christmas to everybody.
Merry
Hope
late
you all
Christmas.
Merry
enjoy.
Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. I'm Jewish, but I also do Christmas.
All the things. Yeah, it's 7:20. I'm gonna try to edit this at lightning speed and get it up before the Hall of Shame drops at midnight, but you know, who knows? At this point, all we've gotten is a weird description of what we thought was gonna be a clip show, but apparently is going to be
Within the last time of us recording, with us in the last recording, we have come up with 3 different things this episode could be about, and it's still probably not going to be anything we have talked about, so it's going to be interesting for all of us.
Let's talk about the Hall of Shame at the end, because that's a whole thing to
Yeah,
unpack.
let's talk
But-
about. Okay, so let's go to Debbie.
She's like a gig worker now. She's like a lesbian handy woman lady. When she was at the woman's house and found out that her daughter needed something for school or wasn't at school, she could have texted her client, "My daughter had an emergency. I will let you know when I can come back." That's it. That could have solved her work situation.
Yeah. Or like, can we reschedule? Yeah.
But of course, they have to pull the whole, I'll get away with it, I'll come back later, no one will know I'm gone. And then she robs the place. So, like, she didn't make a pretty picture for herself. But, I don't know, like, I understood, like, obviously they're playing the whole, like, Gallagher busy house. Someone take so-and-so to school in the morning. But she full on, everyone dipped. Like, not, like, as, like, I'm kind of glad that, I forget who calls her out at the very, very end.
Lip.
Like, I'm really glad he does say something at the very end, but, like, homegirl just left. She left her daughter there.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like, "Who did you leave her with?" She's like,
Yeah,
"I left her
and
with all
then-
of you." And he's like, "No, did anybody say, 'Yes, Debbie, I will take Franny to school'?" Like, he's a dad too. He wouldn't just leave Fred behind with the house unless someone was like, "Yes, Lip, I will take Fred to school for
Yeah.
you."
And I feel like a lot with this season, they continuously show that Debbie still isn't like, yes, she's a mother, but she's still not, like, a full-grown, like, functioning adult almost. Like, I don't know, I'm not saying the right
Well-
words, but it's like she's still, like, on the run. She's still trying to do her own thing. Like,
She's
they
only,
haven't really,
at the very most,
What,
she's only
19?
20 years old.
yeah.
And so it's like, she's still like basically a child. I mean, yes, her kid's like 5 years old, but just because she did have Fiona as kind of an extra support in the first few years. I mean, Fiona was like 21 taking care of all of them, but yeah, it's just like, well, now I'm thinking about Fiona. I'm like, Fiona would have never just left Liam without knowing who was
Yeah.
gonna take him.
That's why I'm saying it's like, it feels like it's more prominent, because like Debbie in like the previous seasons used to be like up on her game with Franny, but then from the last episode it was like the me show for her birthday, and now it's her just leaving her loosey goosey at the house or whatever. I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's more prominent this season that she's kind of like, obviously still a kid in the sense, but like
Yeah.
isn't like that authority figure that she's been like promoted herself as of recently.
Well, according to Liam, because when he leaves when everybody leaves and he's the only one there, he says, "I guess I'll take you to school again."
Yeah.
So that kind of implies that this happens like somewhat all the time. It's just that she never gets left with Frank. She always gets taken to school by Liam because Liam is the best Gallagher, and I'll stand by that.
You know what I would have loved? I would have loved a little window of the months that she was away in prison of who was taking care of Franny. Were Ian and Mickey taking care of Franny? Was Lip taking care of Franny? Who was taking care of Franny for the months that Debbie was gone?
Yeah, where was Franny?
But yeah, Debbie's storyline, like the chaos in the morning, I understood that it was chaotic and like it was a misinterpretation. But at the end, I saw a lot of people get mad at Lip for snapping at her, and even in the scene, like Sandy got mad at Lip. Yeah, it's a bad thing to call a woman a shitty mom, but like he isn't incorrect. And he immediately was like, the way I said that was shitty. Like he immediately apologized, but like somebody
Yeah.
needed to say it.
It's probably some of the most harmless things they have said to each other as siblings, and especially in an instance when she fucked up.
I do understand how that can be so, like, upsetting to her, though, because Monica was, like, truly a shitty mom. So she's really just trying to not be
Yeah.
Monica. I also, like, when I'm thinking about this chaotic scene in the morning, it does kind of sound like somebody was like, yeah, sure. But really, they were responding to Carl.
Yeah.
So, like, I can kind of understand why, like, how she misinterpreted that and kind of just assumed that they would work it out amongst themselves because they all were just, because it was like, yeah, sure, but it was actually in response to Carl. So,
Yeah. But like Lip said, she could have stood there and been like, wait, so who's taking Franny? Like before everybody dispersed, she could have been like, hold up, who's taking Franny? She could have taken 4 seconds to fix that
the group chat was
misunderstanding.
so funny, though.
Lena was like, Mickey isn't in the group chat and I'm livid about
I
it.
was
Yeah,
so
Sandy's
sad.
in the group chat, but Mickey
No,
isn't,
Sandy's
and
not.
Tammy was.
Sandy and Tammy are not in the group chat. Debbie texted Sandy on her own. I just thought it was funny because Ian doesn't type with auto caps. I was like, oh, so he's like,
My one thing I did notice in the one scene when Debbie and Sandy are in the car and Sandy's like in a group chat because Sandy's in or she's on Debbie's phone. I couldn't tell what was going on.
she was texting from Debbie's phone.
But you see the phone for a split second and you're able to read the screen and like none of that made sense, and then she goes to read the phone and then the messages that were on that screen weren't even dialogue until like maybe like a
Yeah.
scene later or the next couple minutes. I was like, so they just pretty odd. Of course it's just fucking
Well, when
already
she
there,
started
but,
saying
like,
that, I was like, didn't we just see that?
yeah, that was like, I feel like that was we were supposed to read that, but then that was the conversation for like the next like whole thing, which I thought was funny. But
Yeah.
inconsistency, we love it.
So yeah, Debbie's storyline was wild. And it fed into Frank's storyline, which I'm so angry that I care about Frank right now because Frank's day with Franny was adorable. It was adorable.
I love that storyline, like, with more than my heart. Like, obviously, Frank should have taken her to the correct school, but he's Frank, and I feel like also this episode as we can point out that Frank is starting to show some signs of getting a little mushy in the brain.
He couldn't remember what school it
guys.
was or where the other one was. He mixed up a story about Debbie with a story about Fiona. He said Aunt Kev and Uncle V, and then he got lost. Like,
and then
something's happening.
And then he, like, the whole thing with, like, gotta go to the paper store, and then Franny was like,
We already
"Keep
went.
Uncle Frank, we already went."
And then he like looked at
But-
the map of the L and was like, where are we? Oh my
yeah,
god,
I was
guys.
trying to figure out where they were, but is this Frank getting dementia?
I think they're going. Someone has a theory that they're going to end the show. Frank gets dementia and dies, or Frank gets COVID and dies, and then the last episode's going to be like a bonfire of all the kids around, just like in the pilot episode.
Well, because like
That's
that would
what
make
someone's
sense
theory
to
is.
me because it's like, okay, narratively that makes sense because it's like Frank was the start of like this whole arc of the show because he was such a bad parent. That was like the whole reason for everything that happened. But
Yeah.
and like they've also done this before because they actually didn't know if they were going to get renewed at the end of season 7. It was really up in the air until literally after the finale of season 7 aired. They didn't know if they were going to be renewed for season 8, and that's the season that they killed Monica. And so I'm like, okay, they're getting rid of these parents so that these kids can finally like move on and begin their lives essentially. And so it makes sense narratively for Frank to die. And I don't want to be sad about it, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little sad about it.
I know, I'm so angry about how emotional that the scenes of Frank and Franny made me. It made me so
Yeah,
sad.
I was a little rocked by those scenes. Not in like I'm getting really sad, just like it was more like most genuine. Like obviously she's a child actor, so you can't really do too much with the child actor or have that much intense dialogue, but it just seemed very like comforting. And then it was just like all the small little thing was Frank, then it started to hurt my heart because you knew he always tried to keep a filter for himself around Franny as much as he can, even though he's dealing drugs. But like
The tattoo.
what? The
The tattoo!
tattoo!
And the fact that she got a little, like, Sharpie tattoo on her arm, too. Oh.
Also, are we gonna talk about, trans
I
Franny
don't want to talk
rights?
about it. I don't want to talk about
Trans
it.
Franny? Do you know what? That scene that, like, when she was like, a boy, and he's like, live your truth, it made me miss
Okay.
Molly Milkovich so much.
Okay, but my one thing about that narrative, though, is that at the end, how Frank still was like, put on the dress and make people happy. Your own feelings don't matter unless it's other people's fulfillment. That made me a bit irked because like she obviously was like, I like a tomboy. I don't want to wear the dress, and Frank's like, just give her that one thing. So I'm like, don't encourage her not to express that, but obviously it's shameless, so they want her to compete. But from what the next episode is gonna be, I'm guessing it's gonna be Franny revolting.
Well, it's Little Miss Southside, and the promotional pictures have actually come out already, and Debbie like puts her in a wig and stuff, but
Yeah, I think because she thinks a ginger won't win, probably.
maybe something like that. But I was gonna say something about Franny. Oh yeah, Franny being like a boy and people making like trans Franny headcanons kind of gives me the same energy as when Jared Padalecki in a panel recently was like, Sam uses he, they.
Stop it!
Stop it! Stop
I literally
it!
saw
Not
that.
he, they,
I
Sam
was like, he's playing
Winchester.
both sides so that he can come out on top.
Not he, they, Sam Winchester.
He, they, Sam. I was like, all right.
But questionable, question mark, Franny?
Question mark Franny.
Huh, he, they, live?
I really love that storyline. I thought it was so sweet. And before we get to the main event, the Lip storyline also tugged at my heart. I wasn't entirely sure what the resolution of that was because his boss was going to sell his business to pay for his child's bills. I get that. That's noble. But that means Lip is out of a job now?
I don't think it hasn't happened. They haven't solved it yet. I feel like it's
So
gonna be like
I
a
couldn't
2
tell.
episode arc.
Is the baby already born, or is the
The
baby?
baby is born, yeah.
The baby is born. Okay.
Has a hole in his heart.
Yeah.
He
I
has a
knew
hole
the
in his heart.
illness. I knew like they said like obviously he was sick and stuff like that, but I couldn't tell. Like it made it seem like the baby was still not born yet, so I was like really confused. But like, I don't know. Like I feel like when Tammy was like asking Lip for all that money and stuff like that, like Lip, I didn't like how they portrayed Lip because he was like, no, they don't got any money.
Oh, see, no, I loved that conversation. I loved it. Showed like the divide of a person, like a middle to lower class person. She's like, yeah, my Aunt Oopie's gonna give up her jewelry that she has not yet had to pawn, and they're gonna do this that they have not yet had to give up. And he's like, yeah, they can give all of that up because they have all of that to give
Yeah.
up. We are still sharing underwear in this
That
house.
and also
Like,
it's just because it brings me back to that conversation in the first episode where it seems to be that Lip and Tammy share their income, but they are not married. So they have so technically, I mean, legally they don't, well, I mean, legally anyway, if you're married, you don't have to share your income necessarily, but there is no real reason for them to be sharing their income. So
Yeah.
why would I understand that he feels very emotionally attached, but it's like from an outsider standpoint, I'm like, well, you're not married into the family. I know that you care very deeply, but you really don't have that much to give. Why would you bust your ass
Yeah,
to
why
try to
would
give
you
money?
sell all of your shit? Why would your siblings who are already on Shit's Creek
Exactly.
like,
His little
anything?
bike pet project too, that could in the long run make them an extreme amount of money he could sell now for not its full worth.
Yeah, and I really liked that storyline. Like, the first time I watched the episode through, I was bored by it, and I was like, why are we focusing so much time on Tammy's family? But then at the end of it, like, it came together, and I, like, understood why the second time I watched it, I was like, yes, I did watch it a second time. I was like, I understand why we went on this journey for Lip. And at the end, I was so worried that his landlord was going to be like, oh, wow, you fixed this place up nice. I'm going to jack up your rent or I'm going to sell the place. He's like, oh no, you fixed this place up nice. Let me pay you
Yeah,
for
the
your
conversation
labor.
seemed very off. Like, for some reason, to me, the guy he was renting from, which is like what, the son or the grandson of the original owner,
Yeah,
right?
I think they like
He
it's
seemed
like
like
their house.
sketchy when they were talking. Like, he seemed like he was like, oh, so you did this. Like, he almost seemed like really sketchy when he was like pointing all that stuff out, and then he was like, oh, I'll dock it off your rent. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. But like, it was building it up to seem like he was about to like throw Lip under the bus or something like that. He seemed really indecisive every time he'd be like, oh, so tile. Like,
Yeah, I think
okay.
that was just because like I don't remember, but I think that his family actually owns the house. So
Yeah, they
he's
do.
really renting it for extra income. And so that makes sense for him to knock it off the rent because it's repairs that would have needed to be done to keep the house in shape anyway.
Yeah, to be rented out again in the future.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me, especially
Oh,
because it
not
was
that part.
so,
Just the way he was like talking to Lip is what
Yeah,
I
the
was
way the
saying.
conversation played out was really weird and sketchy. And like until you got to the end of it, I was like very uncomfortable. I was like, is Lip about to lose even
Yeah,
more?
that's what I was saying. It just
Yeah.
seemed like it was like not gonna be the conversation it was going to be.
We're also just not used to good things happening to these characters. So
yeah. Well,
Honestly, yeah. Every time a character talks to someone, I'm just like, "Fuck, what are they gonna do?"
so
I was like, "What'd you do to him?"
if we're moving into Ian and Mickey, I saw
no, Kevin V.
Kevin
Kevin
V.
V
Okay,
first.
because there was somebody who had a really good take on why their storyline is the way it is this season, but I'll talk about that
Yeah.
later.
Kevin V, I really like Kev is his fucking himbo self that we always knew he was. He got a little money in his pocket. He started
Oh my
flashing it
god, that
around.
drip!
That drip, that yellow
Drip.
ass suit.
He is
Why do you
so
have an erection in
funny.
those ugly fucking banana pants?
He was like, "That's my money roll," and they were like, "Kind of a weird name to call your dick."
Yeah. That storyline was so stupid, but like it was the setup for an Ian and Mickey storyline, so I'll allow it.
It's
Ooh.
true to character though. That's the best part is that it's like
Yeah.
it's so true that he would do that, especially the like hiding money in the keg, and they're like, "Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Ah,
Didn't they do that in a previous season
they
too and
did,
realize that was a
they
bad
Yeah,
did,
idea?
and they got
they hid the
robbed."
money in like they hid the money in like what, the back
It was
in the
no, it was
cooler?
one keg under the bar, and they got robbed. This is during the rub and tug. That's why they had a fight, and then so now he's like, but you see, I have improved my strategy. I am hiding it all around the bar.
The fact he was like, yeah, under the pool table, under bar booth number 4 in this keg.
And Mickey's sitting there rubbing his eyes like, we have been through this before. You stupid gorilla of a man. You're so dumb. But Kevin V did lend a helping hand in this episode in the Ian and Mickey storyline.
Oh, we forgot to mention they got robbed though.
Oh yeah, they got robbed.
All of their money, all of their weed money gone because Kevin's an idiot. But we love him.
Not to worry, in the next real episode, not the Hall of Shame episode, the next episode we're going to see the new security team that they have. But let's rewind to the beginning of the episode. I was a few minutes behind Lena when she watched it, and I was getting live texts. And I just got sex scene text messages. I sort of want to like post screenshots of our chat while the episode was happening because it was just an all caps nightmare. So the Jonas Brothers.
The Jonas Brothers. Not a sentence we would think would be featured on Shameless. Just like Riverdale last week, Jonas Brothers this week.
So Ian and Mickey are having sex, and Mickey likes to be choked, and like, let's not pretend that we didn't know.
Choked.
Let's not pretend we didn't know he was a kinky bitch. He pulled out the anal beads in season 3, y'all.
True.
Like, someone spotted a ball gag last week, and we're like, yeah, that makes sense. He likes.
Yeah, shut them up.
Not the ball gag.
But what did confuse me, sorry, we're gonna get graphic for a moment here. What did confuse me is that a gay man wrote this episode. And the way that gay sex is portrayed in this episode, there is prep time involved with bottoming, and like they act like you could just jump. Like this was some fan fiction shit.
Yeah, Mickey like trying to just jump in Ian. I was like, what?
Honestly, if you watch every other fucking sex scene they've had, those boys just went in.
Well, but there's
raw.
always,
That's true.
it's either they cut away or it's like the indication that it's like maybe he came prepped. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Like, that was so disturbing. But, like, is that the first sex scene we've gotten since the deleted sex scene in season 5?
Yeah, I think so. No. What about the docks?
We got this.
The dock
Yeah, we got
scene.
the sex scene in the van.
No, not the dock scene. The van one?
The docks doesn't count as a sex scene.
You don't think so?
No, that was a kiss. There was a lot of good kissing. That was not a sex scene. They cut away. They cut to black.
You're right, but also they do grind for a hot moment. We almost had a moment in the second episode of season 10, but then the mayonnaise got involved.
Yeah, prison also doesn't count as a
Yeah,
sex scene.
so if you're talking like real legitimate, there's only episode 666.
Episode 666, the deleted scene in season 5, and this.
Yep.
Damn.
And they all.
And this is what they give us.
Well, and
Mickey
it's like
having
they all
a breeding
get cut short,
kink.
or it's like half a scene, or it's deleted, and it's like, well, all right. How many times did I have to watch Jimmy
And you
C?
know what they finally gave us? Them talking and yelling at each other.
Yeah. Like, that Mickey's like, I thought that you weren't gonna fuck me until I got a real job, and Ian was just too horny. He's like, I'm gonna close my eyes and pretend that you're a Jonas brother. And then there was an argument about which Jonas brother, and the Nick Jonas conversation came up.
Ian's
and
so
that's how
funny.
we launched. Honestly, so I wrote a fic about this, but when Mickey called Ian a bitch, I think it triggered something with Ian. There's a whole psychosexual thing going on with Ian. He's got a traumatic sexual past.
Correct.
And I think the bitch thing triggered something bad in Ian. They're never going to discuss it. We're never going, unless they cover it in the Hall of Shame tonight, we're never going to get elaboration on it.
No, I don't think they'll
but
cover
I think it triggered something.
They'll cover. I'm trying to think like what they could possibly talk about in Hall of Shame. We'll talk about it later, but somebody had a really good take, basically saying like the reason that Ian and Mickey are acting as our comedic relief this season and that their storylines are so like kind of stupid and silly and they're arguing about really dumb stuff is because they're trying to balance that with the actually like heavy emotional storylines that they're introducing with like Lip and Tammy and what looks like is going to be Frank. So because Ian and Mickey are such a stable relationship, they're trying to give us that like comic relief by having them fight about dumb stuff. Because
we're gonna
this
get
is
a
not like
Milkovich
end of the
showdown
world.
next week, though.
Oh
yeah.
I'm so excited.
You know what's funny though, as I was looking at the synopsises for the next couple of episodes. So the next episode is get the fuck out my backyard, like the abbreviation, or not in my backyard. And then the next episode after that is called Slaughter. Slaughter doesn't have a synopsis yet, but it's
Let Terry die.
But for the not in my backyard though, it says that it's Kev, Frank, and Liam are banding up to get rid of the Milkoviches, and then Ian and Mickey are doing the whole money
security.
storyline. So I'm very curious to see why they're gonna make them three be like the Milkovich teardown.
I'm excited to give Liam a storyline.
Someone made me very emotional with a parallel of season 2 when Mickey is breaking up with Ian and saying he's nothing but and saying like he's afraid of what his dad's gonna do, and then season 11 of him married, flipping his dad off, just walking past the Milkovich, just like, oh, the journey we've gone on.
Yeah, but I feel like the Milkovich thing should be a whole season long storyline, but I know it's not gonna be. I think they're gonna end it in like 6 or 7. Episode 6 or 7.
But in this episode, I kind of really liked this episode. I liked Ian realizing like, yeah, he's been giving Mickey shit because Mickey doesn't have a real job, but Ian has been working his ass off at a real job that's going to take all of his money anyway. So like,
fuck Amazon.
Fuck Amazon, man. Like, yeah, they're gonna dock you for literally anything, and Ian getting fed up and walking away from that, and then the bar fight. It's like, they push each other and push each other and push each other.
Dom V.
I'm obsessed with her.
Dom V. Mistress V, not in Mama's house.
Not
V.
in Mama's house.
I feel like instead of giving all of like this time that would have gone to Fiona to Debbie, it should have been given to V. I'm not gonna lie.
I agree.
I
agree.
She was the default older sister when Fiona left.
Right.
Like, she's always been the second older sister.
Right.
I like, V knocking them on their ass. Like, this woman's been, they haven't been married, but like they've been fucking married for a decade to Kev. Like, listen to the wise words of this woman. Stop fighting like idiots and just join together. What I wish we would have gotten is a conversation before a random sex scene at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Like that, they even came home bitching at each other.
Yeah, and
Like, you couldn't be high off your pot brownies giggling.
that, but it's yeah, and then just like in general, V going off and being like, you need to stop saying like bitch and vagina because it's offensive to women, and just because you're gay doesn't mean that you can like be misogynistic. She's right, and she should say it. But then immediately after she left, Ian turned to Mickey and just said, "Bitch." It's like
Masculine dom top daddy.
the uber masculine side. I was like, guys, can we just be okay with our femininity for like 2 seconds? I understand that that's like not their thing, but it just kind of like, it felt like her words meant nothing.
Yeah.
And I feel like the average,
Like, I'm glad she said it, but I'm pissed because those boys did not take any of that
well, because
information
it's like the average viewer would not totally absorb that because like they don't psychoanalyze why Ian and Mickey are so hyper masculine, toxic masculinity. They would just kind of be like, haha, stupid woman, like they don't care. And it's like, oh my god, guys,
gay boys fight.
she's right and she should say it. Like,
yeah, no, I totally agree. And like, I loved V just putting them in their place. And like, that's exactly what needed to happen. They needed somebody who's been married for 100 years to be like, so you've been married for 4 seconds. I need you to calm the fuck down with each other for a moment. And like, also just the growth of Mickey, nobody can find out who I am, to Mickey in the alibi. Just because I take it in the ass doesn't mean I'm the woman. Like, I'm in love with you.
Also, Kev, put some pants on. You're giving me a boner.
yeah, literally, I was like, so it finally comes out. I knew you were attracted to him the whole time.
That part made me. I love that part so much, just because of how casually he says it, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, we've been waiting for the security in the show, and now we have it. Thank you so much, Mickey Milkovich.
And this, sorry, I'm gonna bring in Supernatural for 4 seconds. This comedy that we're getting with Mickey and his just being gay and making those kind of gay jokes is what we could have had if Dean got to be bi. He would have been calling every monster homophobic, and it would have been hilarious.
Come out in like literally season 8 is gay.
Here's where I cut away. I don't know if I'm gonna leave all that in or cut it out.
Cut it out, please.
But so Ian and Mickey, their storyline, and then suddenly Dom Top Daddy, uber masculine slut at the end. And honestly, like, I was watching it and like everybody's storyline was wrapping up and everything is fine. Lena was even texting me, like I said, you were a few minutes ahead. You're like, I guess we're just not wrapping up this Ian and Mickey storyline. Never mind, like, Dom Top Daddy. And like that, and the music that was playing, and then when the needle drop of What a Man Gotta Do hit me in the chest, like, it was ridiculous.
So they were watching the episode. They watched it and finished it before I started it. So I had to mute the group chat, and the amount of times I just would check the group chat for 2 seconds, and the things they were saying, I was not expecting that those things were said and did happen in that last 30 seconds of this fucking episode.
I'm never as funny as I am the night that something's airing and I'm making immediate jokes about it. I have never said,
my God.
I never will ever be as funny as when that happens.
I feel like the only promo pictures I'm gonna put up for this episode are screenshots of our group chat of just us losing our entire goddamn
like the first
minds.
5 minutes of the episode, they both texted me separately. They were like, "You better mute this group chat, or you're gonna see something you don't want to see."
Because that was literally the sex scenes in the first 5 minutes. But yeah.
They both look. The bed looks so tiny with
that bed looks so dirty.
Like, definitely a queen size
wash
bed.
them sheets, please.
Oh my God! Please stop
sheets.
reminding me that I need to wash my sheets so bad.
In conclusion, season 11, episode 3 was
fucking
phenomenal.
Great. It was really
great.
Good. I really enjoyed it. It had me interested almost in everyone's storylines.
Yeah, Carl.
Yeah. Carl was the only, like,
Carl and Debbie's.
dropout.
The only reason I guessed Debbie's was because hers was the Franny storyline. I didn't care for Debbie's scenes. I only cared for Franny.
The whole just because I knew exactly what was gonna happen with her when she like took the food and left the window open. I knew exactly what was gonna happen with that.
Yeah, she
lady.
was not gonna get back in. They were like, it was so obvious from the get-go that we knew she was not gonna have a good outcome to her storyline.
Yeah. Sandy's a hot lesbian, and I wish we
Okay,
get
okay.
her.
But one thing I want to say, why I feel like that conversation when she called Sandy of her sitting in like that alley, it seemed kind of sketchy. Did you notice that?
Yeah, but I don't
Something's
know
brewing. Something's brewing with Sandy.
I don't know where that's gonna go. Like, I don't know what she could. I don't know how many more character arcs they could possibly fit into this show. The ensemble
Yeah, because
cast is already so
they'll
big.
try.
we only met Sandy last season, and all we know is she is a Milkovich and that she is a lesbian. Like those are her traits right
And
now.
that her hair
But
is
honestly,
perpetually greasy, and yet
it's so
she makes it look good.
gross.
It's hot.
But
it's hot because she's hot.
yeah, just that conversation seemed a bit fishy to me. And even when Debbie asked, like, "Where are you?" she was like, "Doesn't matter." So I'm very curious what they might do with that, but it might not be the most important. It probably just will to keep Debbie's story alive. But I hope they don't villainize Sandy in any way.
And now, as of almost 8 o'clock on December 26th, Saturday night, we have not seen Hall of Shame yet. All we've gotten is a tweet. They tweeted a short video of Ian and Mickey playing video games with each other.
Fortnite.
Which is very cute.
I'm still like, no.
Was it
He thinks
Fortnite?
it's Among Us. He thinks it's Fortnite. I think it's gonna be maybe Among Us.
I think they're just.
But we've seen that Cameron Monaghan has tweeted some throwback pictures and said that they filmed some new stuff and that he's excited for it. And we know somebody from Ian's past dies.
Dead.
Ned.
And
Ned,
that
Ned.
causes them to
I'm
reevaluate their
manifesting.
relationship. Here are my
What did we
predictions.
say?
Ned makes sense because he's older, he's a doctor.
For people who don't remember, Ned is Jimmy Steve's gay dad that Ian fucks in season 2.
in season 3. Season 2 and 3.
Yes?
So
Yeah, I have 3 guesses.
So I predict it's either going to be Ned, and they would find out through the news, or it will be Caleb because he's a first responder too, and they'd find out through the news. But
and
that
he's
really
HIV
wouldn't.
positive.
That really wouldn't trigger anything with daddy issues. Or Clayton dies and Ian finds out somehow because he is Ian's bio dad. Maybe Clayton leaves him money or something. Or Cash dies and Ian and Mickey find
Through
out
Linda,
through the
something like
neighborhood
that.
somehow.
Like that.
Yeah, or one of Cash's
Yeah.
I
kids.
feel like personally the Cash one maybe not, just because we don't even know where he left off with the storyline. Remember how like he just ups his
kinda
bags and
left.
leaves?
Yeah, like
So I feel like
Yeah. Well, I just think his kids are old enough now that they would probably be like manning the cash and grab. So
true,
like,
but I feel like
but how would they know where he is if he just did?
yeah,
How
that's
would
my
they know he was
that's
dead?
my only thing. Yeah, that's my only thing if with the Cash thing is because I feel like they dropped that storyline that they wouldn't like be like the kids would know where their dad is, etc., etc. So I feel like maybe Cash is out of the question. I feel like Ned would make the most sense because he's the one relationship Mickey had like some of the most involvement with, or like the most angsty bits about. So I feel like that makes the most sense.
That was definitely something that like drove them together. Was the jealousy over
that
Ned.
scene when Mickey's watching them at the bar and then he just punches Ned and then they have their little
Somebody
little tussle
the
in the
other
alleyway.
day tweeted the part where they're back in the alley and they're like playing tag or
And he's
whatever,
tickling him.
and you can hear him go, "Gotcha, Mickey." Poetic
it.
cinema.
like, yeah, Cash was the kickstart and their beginning.
True.
And then Ned was the catalyst for more of their romantic relationship. And then all I know is that it's not going to be Trevor. Like, Caleb would just make sense because he's a first responder, but it's got nothing to do with daddy issues.
I feel like it would make the most sense
Clayton
that Clayton
would
would
only-
be just because the emphasis on daddy issues.
Yeah, Clayton would only make sense if he left Ian money
Yeah.
or something. I feel like it's the only way he would
Well,
find
'cause
out.
it
Clayton
wouldn't
died.
make sense for like in the context of their relationship. It wouldn't make sense.
Because we have the one involvement with Clayton once in season 1, right? And then there's no other further.
Monica comes over to Clayton's again in season 2 or season 3.
But like that's early on. We haven't heard really anything relatively regarding.
And they
him,
never
so-
mention it. They literally never talk about the fact that Ian is not Frank's.
Yeah.
That he is both their brother and their cousin. Kind of awkward.
And he and Debbie are the only gingers in the family, so like, is Debbie Frank's?
She never got
Have we
tested.
ever discussed that
She
question?
never got a DNA test.
Interesting, but
But yeah.
it's just so hard just because we were given so many different puzzle pieces to what Hall of Shame could be that like when I tell you all of our guesses from the previous episode are incorrect and aren't anything relatively close to what we're probably going to be seeing
Probably.
tonight.
I mean,
so.
we don't know, and it's probably going to be something really shitty and bad, and mostly
It's probably going to be just like
clips that we've seen before.
I feel like they probably will show, like, a scene, and then, like, I don't know, what if they have, like, their characters, like, talking, like, what if it's, like, them on the couch, but it's, like, them in character being like, so, I would be like, ew.
I don't think they're doing that.
I'm hoping from the clip that we got, it'll be them, like, on their phones, and they find out something somehow on their phones, and then if it does cut back, it's just the two of them sitting on their bed.
They just kind of reminisce, then, like, if we're lucky, maybe we'll get, like, a nice little heartfelt conversation. Yeah, that too. We'll get a nice little heartfelt conversation.
Because what it seems like now is that these Hall of Shame episodes are going to further their development in the season almost, which is really interested about. Because, like, if it's obviously not, like, a clip show anymore and it's new scenes, like...
It's not really
I feel like
new
it's
scenes.
definitely
What it
gonna
really
help.
is just giving context and narrative to an episode that is mostly just flashbacks. Because Lips...
I'm, like, really looking forward to the Lip one, because the description we've gotten of Lips is, like, that Fred has a cold, and Lip is, like, really worried, and, like, oh my god, I'm so ready to see that.
I think Lips is him telling Fred a story, like a bedtime story, and he's probably telling his own story, and that's where the flashback clips will come from. In terms of, like, Debbie, Carl, and Liam, because their episodes are grouped together, I have, like, no clue. Maybe V and Kev will talk about... Yeah, maybe V and Kev will talk about the fact that, like, they were supposed to get married and then they haven't yet, and, like, that kind of journey, like, they'll reminisce as well. But,
or maybe they got COVID married. They got married over Zoom just to get it over
maybe.
with. But all of this will mean nothing if I don't get this up by midnight, so I'm going to edit for the next 4 hours nonstop.
Oh my god.
And hopefully get this episode up. I know it's only, at this point, our record is at like 43 minutes, and that sounds like nothing. It's not nothing. That's a lot. I'm gonna cut. We did talk about Supernatural. I'm gonna cut that out if I can, because that'll cut a few minutes out.
Oh my god.
Oh, wow.
But Hall of Shame, who fucking knows, man? Who knows? But 1103 was dope.
Very dope.
Yeah, it was really good.
And if I didn't think it would get taken down for copyright, this is when I'd roll in a little bit of Nick Jonas. What a man gotta do? What a man gotta do to be totally hung up by you?
Got to do.
What a man gotta say? What a man gotta play to be your last good night and your first good day? That's all I want to know. What a man gotta do?
Move like you stole it is probably what he gotta play.
Stop it!
So, yeah, everybody, we're sorry if this was a little messy, a little rushed. We're trying to get this up before Hall of Shame airs. I don't think we're going to do a recap episode of Hall of Shame. We're going to take a little break, but 207 is going to drop on Tuesday. 208 is going to drop 2 weeks after that, and we'll try
if anything, we'll just do a Hall of Shame mini recap before the episode, if we want to, genuinely.
Yeah, we could do that, or if we do an 1104, we'll be like, so let's talk about Hall of Shame, and let's talk about 1104 a little bit.
That'd be easier to group them in the smaller episodes instead of, like, making it its own thing, because it doesn't need to be its own thing.
Yeah, but we love the reception we've gotten. We love you guys so much. Thank you. Somebody just put on their Instagram story and tagged us and said we were their fameless, we were their favorite Shameless podcast, and they were, like, raving about us. It was so cool.
That's so good. Thank you so much. We're glad people enjoy it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and we really appreciate it. Our numbers have been really cool recently, and, like, keep it coming, guys. Subscribe, rate, review. I'm gonna link all of our socials in the description below, and then you can follow the Luck We Had on Instagram and Twitter at luckwehadpod. You can email us luckwehadpod@gmail.com. And we're gonna be freaking out about the Hall of Shame just as much as you are. We're gonna be staying up way too late to talk about it. It's gonna be a little insane. What a man gotta do, guys.
What a man gotta do.
What does a man gotta do?
And with that, let's bid you adieu. because what a man gotta do. I mean...
Okay, bye!
Okay, goodbye!